The medic and his partner moved me to a stretcher, insisting that until I'm checked out, I needed to move very little and take it easy. A few thuds and thumps as they lifted me into the air and onto the stretcher. Clang, click, the stretcher legs and wheels extended beneath as they raised me upward. They rolled me out through the main restaurant door, where I observed the young waitress teary-eyed watching me. She rushed up and put a note in my hand and wished me well, and a swift recovery. She seemed really moved by my standing up for her. Nearly 30 minutes later, I arrived at what was apparently the closest hospital, which seemed more like a big clinic with some care rooms in the back with curtains as their only privacy. The clinic staff was super courteous and gentle, something I especially appreciated after being so heavily beaten by that scruffy dude. They checked my nose and explained it was broken. They read my vitals, examined my eyes, looked in my ears and my nostrils, listened to my breath, listened to my heart, observed my response times and reflexes. They evaluated my mental acuity, took a blood sample, and ran a CT scan, or CAT scan as they call it. The medical test seemed like excessive assessment, and it made me wonder if maybe I was a lot worse off than I thought, or maybe they were just racking up any possibly remotely justifiable test cost. Either way, I guess I'd be paying my full health insurance deductible before all this was done. I was, in fact, fortunate that I did have insurance. The attending physician explained that my nose can be treated by immobilization in time, but it's just gonna hurt a lot. He would prescribe medications to help with the pain. I had numerous cuts and contusions. I seemed to have suffered a serious concussion apparently, which could result in memory loss, confusion, and extremely rare cases, even brain damage, dementia, and death. That's an interesting thought. The doctor strongly recommended I stay in the hospital for at least 1 to 3 days to make sure that they could respond to any complications. What appeared to be a nurse visited me and repeated the doctor's advice that I should remain in the hospital under their care for at least the next day, ideally 3 days. She asked for my medical insurance, of course. Oh crap. My wallet was missing. Did that scruffy thug take it? Honestly, I felt like the only explanation. Did it fall out in the ambulance? Did the paramedics take it? Did they steal it? My bet was on the scruffy man. Obviously criminal, violent. Why wouldn't he steal my wallet while I was laying on the floor unconscious? I explained the situation to the doctor and was able to call a friend, Bob, from work, who was able to track down the information they needed so that they had billing information that was certainly very important to them. Being medicated, I drifted off to sleep in the hospital. Sometime later, Deputy Taylor, whom I met while delirious from being beaten at the Big Hut roadside cafe, visited me early evening in the hospital. Now that I was back to some semblance of a sound mind, I was able to see the deputy clearly. She was toned and fit. Her biceps were visibly buffed through her shirt. Wearing subtle, shiny skin tone lipstick and her long blonde hair in a bun, she was clearly a balanced professional with pragmatism, but athletic, sporty, pretty. She was 30-something years old and didn't have a wedding ring. I wondered if she had negative baggage or a bad attitude that kept people away from her and thusly single. Or perhaps she just didn't like wearing a ring. Or maybe she was in a relationship but wasn't engaged or married. I realized right then, relationship rings, whether marital, promise, friend, or whatever, are entirely cultural. And the new generation does not honor much of my generation's culture, so maybe my thoughts around a ring and what they mean are entirely misplaced. Old school dinosaur thoughts. There it was. Not having a wedding ring does not mean anything anymore, whereas having a wedding ring does mean something. The absence of a ring cannot be used in a social setting, while the presence of a ring generally can. It must have been the painkillers making me so bizarrely observational of such weird little personal things. like the ambiguity of not wearing or wearing a wedding ring and thusly the unclarity in a social setting. Deputy Taylor made piercing eye contact with me as if judging who I was, deciding if I might be trustworthy, and evaluating how she should engage with me. She was serious, professional, almost cold in that moment. Her intimidating stance softened a little bit as she smiled, her lips still pressed firmly together, making me wonder if her smile was actually forced. Was it even sincere? She was not a good actress like the waitress was, if that smile was forced. Regardless, I had accepted her air of authority, and I listened, of course. She explained that the incident at the Big Hut had been an unexpected boon to the pursuit of a man named Aaron Graywall. He was wanted for assault, fraud, and an attempted homicide. She leaned in to tell me that there are 3 murders that he is suspected of, but that no warrants had been issued. He's a bad, very bad man. She told me that I'm lucky to have only been knocked unconscious. With his assault on me, though, they have now issued an arrest and a warrant to get him captured. Unfortunately, I did not have much to describe about the incident that they didn't already know from the crime scene and interviewing Katie, the waitress at the Big Hut Cafe. I remembered to say my wallet was missing and that I thought maybe that Aaron guy, maybe he took it. Deputy Taylor looked worried for me and handed me her card with contact information. She told me to call her immediately if I remembered anything else, or if I actually saw Aaron Graywall. She cautioned me that he likely did take my wallet, and therefore he now had my address and personal information, and credit cards. If I saw him, she emphasized to just call her and do not engage with him. She fervently insisted, noting that my previous vigilantism resulted in my hospitalization. She said, "Leave police work to the police." Well, good news, sort of. She said they'd be able to track his location using my credit cards. Deputy Taylor thanked me for my time, and with her tight-lipped smile, bade me farewell. She nodded as she turned to leave, saying she'll contact local police to see if they also might station a car outside my home for the next few days, just to be on the safe side. She wouldn't want Aaron to show up unexpectedly. On my last day in the hospital, I was visited by waitress Katie from the restaurant. She appeared nervous and still shaken up even 3 days after the incident. The note she had put in my hand said simply, "Sorry." It had a phone number written on it and was signed Katie. I hadn't decided what to do with it, though, since I had been in the hospital for so many days. I wondered if I should call her or just move on from this ordeal and forget everything. I really had no idea what the point was in continued contact with her after all, some waitress in a diner in the middle of nowhere. I did not know who she was. I knew nothing about her. Well, Katie answered my quandary of what to do with her note by visiting me in the hospital herself. She anxiously explained in a trembling, soft voice that she doesn't want to intrude or do anything to affect me, but she had to say how remarkable it was that I would look out for her without knowing anything about her. I felt a little shaken up, but I also felt a lot like a hero, even if I was beaten up. I had the spirit of a hero, even if I did not have the prowess or the training of one. I was maybe even a bigger hero, because I took the risk without knowing that I would likely be triumphant. That is either bravery or stupidity. Katie detailed that the police confirmed the scruffy man had warrants for his arrest in a different state, including violent crimes and attempted homicides. I found her information did not match up with what Deputy Taylor told me, specifically that Aaron Graywall had no warrants for his arrest. I wondered what the truth was and why there was a discrepancy. I imagined Katie just misunderstood the information amidst the chaos. But who knows? She was especially helpful in filling in the gaps in what I could remember from the incident and what people had said. I felt like we were clicking, like a natural team. Trying to piece it together from the deputy, it sounded like Aaron Graywall had been living in Washington State under an alias for some time. But because of his altercation with me, he drew attention to himself in the scene, and he left fingerprints exposing his true identity. The police now know who he really is, and they've issued an APB for him. He is now considered armed and extremely dangerous. And yes, that pickup with the rifle was his. It's crazy how that radio broadcast foreshadowed his danger from that rifle in the window, and how I did not listen or take heed at all about the danger that was talked about. I even mocked it. It was apparent it's important to pay attention to details. Details and paying attention matter. This waitress seemed like a little bit of a cliche bird of a feather sticking together with me. We just instantly related and we understood each other. We almost had an instant trust. It was kind of weird, not like me. It was honestly very unlike me and very weird feeling. I imagined she could be a friend regardless of our age difference. I asked if perhaps she would like to meet sometime, whatever. I assured her entirely platonically, I'm married, and it was just, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a friend? Even if she was far away in a remote place. She smiled, her face warmed a lot, and she accepted my offer. She expressed that hopefully our next get-together would not have life-threatening dramas or pain. She looked a bit snarky at that moment and informed me it was great to meet someone not after her money, as if she had any, a place to sleep, I guess she's used to people flopping with her, or just sex. Well, that's unfortunate, I thought. She said a real friend in this world, that would be nice. She informed me her name was Katie Snowett. Wow, what an unbelievable series of events. From a terrible night's sleep to a meandering drive into an off-beaten path cafe where I was beaten to unconsciousness, but consequently met a waitress named Katie. I wonder if my fear of a stroke pales in comparison to being assaulted to near death by a crazed felon. Deputy Andrea Taylor was intense and intimidating. I thought that I could really use a friend like her too. She seemed tough. I don't know that I had any true friends at that point, as I had an abundance of acquaintance friends and work friends, which might be better called fair weather friends, that hang out but would not sacrifice much for you. It is possible that some of my current friends were actually genuine friends, like Bob in HR. He seemed like he might be a real friend. But who would ever know until you have a test of that friendship? And honestly, I think we all hope we don't have life situations that put friendships to tests. Meeting waitress Katie Snowett and Deputy Taylor was random, but maybe that is how the best friendships in life are formed. Or so I hoped. As much as I felt afraid that violent, scruffy, crazy thug Aaron Graywall might come and find me after he had beaten me so thoroughly in that cafe. But the more I thought of that event, one thing made it seem worthwhile. My courage standing up to that thug impressed the waitress Katie and got the attention of Deputy Taylor. I even impressed myself by managing to find the courage to confront a homicidal maniac. Albeit, I did not know that he was a murderer at the time. I wonder if I would have done the same thing if I knew. And hot damn, I have made maybe some new friends. So what did my valor result in? I was badly beat up, out insurance deductibles, my wallet and credit cards, ID, everything, cash stolen. I lost 3 days of my life, more time healing. But I enjoyed a great burger, met 2 fine women who may become friends of Catherine and me, waitress, Katie, and Deputy Taylor. I suppose karma hit back hard at me for playing hooky that day with my needing a mental health day. It was days later I finally got home. I looked forward to resting in my own bed.